Disney released The Little Mermaid, and there was a torrent of commentary, both positive and negative. But one of the things that stood out to me over the weekend was this tweet from the New York Times listing a part of the article where they call for they wanted the film to have more joy, fun, mystery, risk, flavor, and kink.
This has multiple interpretations. Some people were saying, oh, it needed more twists and turns.
Okay.
But what do you think people interpret that to mean?
I'm of two minds about this. Like, one, somebody pointed out, like, somebody says, oh, it's a common term. And somebody says, so is calling gay happy. But nobody says it anymore. Like,
well, true, yeah.
So no, like, I don't buy that. On one hand, yes, a journalist could just be being verbose and using all the words they want to. I saw them use the term besotted in here. So, they've got their words. That's fine. But I don't buy that it makes its way into a tweet without it being on purpose.
Sure. This one said, Disney's live-action remake of The Little Mermaid with Halle Bailey starring as Ariel and a diverse cast, quote, reeks of obligation and noble intentions, Wesley Morris writes. That's absolutely true.
It's funny. If you guys read this, if you guys get a chance, read the review that this guy from the New York Times wrote. It's literally all the same complaints that everyone else makes.
He said,
it's just a woke version of it.
The Little Mermaid is everything nobody should want in a movie. Dutiful and defensive, yet desperate for approval.
Yep. So the one thing that he pointed out that I really agreed with, even if you don't like the song, Awkwafina's song is like the only honest and original part of the whole movie that doesn't seem like it's being tepid for the sake of audience approval or critics or to get away from critics who are going to reject it. I didn't think the song was any good, but at least it felt original compared to the rest of it.
He said, it's not a black adaptation and interpretation that imbues white material with black culture until it's something completely new. It's still a Disney movie, one whose heroine is now happens to be black.
And
there is audacity in that.
Yep. And it's really weird because he's kind of pointing out, he goes, the brown skin and placeable accents don't make the movie more fun, just utopic. And therefore less arguable. Now what you've got is something closer to the colorblind wish fulfillment of the Shonda Rhimes streaming verse, minus the wink side eye and carnality. The Little Mermaid is a byproduct. The colorization hasn't led to a racialized, radicalized adventure. It's not a black adaptation or an interpretation that imbues white material with black culture until it's something completely new. It's not The Wiz. It's still a Disney movie. This is literally all the same complaints everyone else made. Make something of original content that can honestly incorporate the culture.
Because we don't have the legacy blue checks, and because we are not New York Times journalists, we don't have the stamp of approval to criticize this movie on the same grounds.
Yep.
So we have to be still ideologically loyal in order to offer these criticisms.
Also, somebody says utopic isn't a word. That's the word he used in here.
I think it sounds like one.
And it's not spelled EU, it's spelled UTOPIC. Is that utopic?
Mm-hmm. Well, you said it looks like a college brochure.
It does. The whole movie is...
It's heavy-handed in that way.
And look, in our review, we did not bag on the college brochureness of the whole thing as much as we probably should have.
We said, or at least I said, it's not woke. Yeah. And what I meant by that is that I wasn't distracted the whole time from the story by a bunch of woke messaging.
It was there.
It was definitely there, and they did change the story. I didn't realize this because I'm not a fan of the original. I never watched the original like Disney princess movies as a kid. I wasn't allowed to. I didn't realize they changed the storyline so that Eric never had a moment where he got to save Ariel from anything. She first saved him from a shipwreck, then saved him from Ursula bewitching him, and then saved him from another shipwreck. Yep. So he never got a hero moment.
Nope.
For her. So it's like kind of puzzling why in this love story
he got to help, and that's the best they could do for Eric.
Like what
he got to help.
It's a little bit a suspension of disbelief. Like I did root for them as a couple for some reason, but
I did too. I thought it was...
there's no like what does Ariel see in Eric? There's no argument for what she sees in him as a love interest because he never does anything for her.
So do you think that the word kink was included intentionally to raise clicks? I think it was there to add clicks. At the very least, I think that whoever read the article put it in the tweet to raise clicks and raise.
Yes, journalists though, like they use lofty, pompous language.
They do
all the time.
There's a lot of that in this.
I
too.
doubt that he thought about it that way.
It also he asks an interesting question that I think Disney needs to address if they ever want to get back on track with these remakes. So here's what it says. It says, he points out all the things that he finds wrong with it. We don't need to go through these one by one. But his most interesting point is this. After pointing all of that out, he says, it's really a misery to notice these things. A 9-year-old wouldn't. But one reason we have this remake is that former 9-year-olds raised on and besotted with these original Disney movies grew up and had questions. In that sense, The Little Mermaid is little more than a moral redress than a work of true inspiration. They need to answer that question. Are you making these for 9-year-olds who you want to sell tickets to the parents of, or are you making them for 35-year-old Disney adults who want to see their childhood reenacted? In which case, you're telling very different stories, and until you figure out who you are, you're not going to release an authentic story that actually rings true with people unless it's original content.
This is what all Disney and Disney Star Wars and Disney Marvel feels like now, that it can't decide what it is or who it's for. And so it just ends up alienating everyone.
And here's the thing. It opened to under $200 million total. It opened to $186 million. It bombed overseas. It did fine here.
They're trying to meme it into a huge success.
And here's the problem. The media is running cover for it. I'm going to pull up the article. So it made Ant-Man made 227 in its opening weekend, and this made 186. It actually runs the opposite of Fast and the Furious. The Fast and the Furious bombed in the U.S. and did really, really well overseas. The Little Mermaid did okay in the U.S., but bombed overseas.
I mean, if you've watched any Bollywood movies and see their suspension of all laws of physics, you understand why overseas Fast was so successful.
But the Fast bombed here, but did really well overseas. The Little Mermaid did only okay here and bombed overseas.
They're in I think India especially lives in a pre-ironic era. I don't know how to explain it. They don't have this literalism or cynicism that Western viewers have. Yeah. So I understand why they wouldn't question something like that.
I'm sick of the cynicism. Maybe it's this is what I'm talking about. When we're talking about sorbet and all these things, I don't like the cynicism of the world, but I get
Our cynicism is also asking, why does King Triton have
7 daughters,
all of different races?
But but they all care. Why do you care so much, bro?
Was his widow cheating on him with every merman in the sea, or did he have 7 different baby mamas from every corner of the ocean?
Tell you, man, it's that no-fault divorce.
We're asking questions that obviously the 9-year-olds would never ask.
It's the no-fault divorce laws under the sea. They're killing it, and it's a problem. And it's the child support must be insane on those kids. But,
and I also I mostly didn't want The Little Mermaid to harp on some weird commentary on colonialism, because this is in the colonial era of Barbados or Brazil or something.
Cartagena.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it felt to me, I forgot to mention this in the review, it felt like watching cutscenes from Assassin's Creed. Literally, where you're messing with a bunch of pirate NPCs in the game. It felt like that.
Yep. So actually, let's talk what he says here. He goes, the allergy to creative risk produces hazards anyways. Well, that's because people on your side of the aisle would never allow for this to be told accurately. The first thing I thought of was girl gets washed up in a net. She doesn't get given a bunch of high heels and a dress. That's not the way that happens. But it's a fairy tale. I get it. I get that.
There's a crab that talks. Yep. We know that it's not supposed to be realistic.
Yeah. I mean, with all these this is from the article again. It says, with all these black women running around in a period that seems like the 19th century, the talk of ships and empire, Brazil and Cartagena just makes me wonder about the cargo on these boats. So again, is this movie for adults or is this movie for kids?
They also were talking, they had a line where Eric was talking about, finding a cure for malaria overseas. He was arguing with his mother about how they run their empire.
Rich coming from an emotional cheater.
Kids don't understand or care about that conversation. Yeah. So, but again, who is this for?
And if you want proof that this movie, again, guys, that this movie that cover is being run for it, there was this this topic that was on r/box office. It says, why are so many media outlets trying to pretend like The Little Mermaid had a great weekend? It only made the top 5 Memorial Day weekends of all time, and that's with inflation being as high as it is. But then there's this. I just looked up the Little Mermaid box office, and these are the headlines of all the ones that are there.
It's sort of like how every book is a New York Times bestseller.
Yep. It says the Little Mermaid rakes in 117 million. The Little Mermaid swims to 117 million dollar box office victory. Review bombers can't stop the Little Mermaid from making a box office splash. That's rich for a movie that didn't do all that well. Remember, if this movie cost what they said it cost, which is $250 million, you take which means 375 total, cut what they made over this weekend in half, and you're still, so they only keep 50% of that box office, 60 tops. They're under $100 million in money right now. They've got a long way to go. The reason that Top Gun Maverick did as well as it did, making $160 million opening weekend, is that it had very strong holds, meaning that the drop from week to week was very low. So was this movie impressive enough that we expect there to not be a steep drop-off week after week? I don't think it was that impressive. I think there's still going to be steep drop-offs from week to week. So it is what it is for this. Maybe we were a little bit like maybe it's because I want to believe that movies aren't as bad as they are these days, and I certainly, like, when I'm watching it, like, you have to also take in perspective. I think somebody broke it. It's like, look, when I go to this movie, I know that this is literally the perfect example of it's not for you. It's literally not for me. Being The Little Mermaid, it's for children. I feel like it is, but
they're trying to sell it on nostalgia bucks, so it's not for you, right? It came out in 1989.
Even then, I'm not a Disney adult, so
I know.
It's like...
But they are trying to rope in the Disney adults, the Disney parents, and kids who weren't attached to the original material.
Yep.
And
$20 one.
Also, this one's from 1,000 Foot Derpend. He said, box office splash is subject to interpretation. Turd splash, Brett.
I don't think that's what they meant, and I'm not giving them a benefit of that. It says...
but anyway, this movie was, as the remake, was billed as a remedy or a correction and a renovation to the original story, making it not misogynist anymore.
Yeah.
Meaning, Ariel has this whole project of, like, self-discovery and self-actualization, where Eric is a complete afterthought. It's not just a love story anymore. It's outdated. But I said it didn't feel that way. It felt like just a love story to me, just with less substance than the original.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.